In this video, I'm going to talk about a phenomenon called Simpson's paradox. Now, Simpson's paradox is actually very common in probability and statistics, but it has also got implications and usage in the context of performance marketing. We'll see how in a moment. Let's first understand what Simpson's paradox is all about. So, Simpson's paradox is essentially a trend that appears in different groups of data, and this trend disappears or reverses when the groups are combined. Now, let's just understand this. So, suppose you have an aggregated data, you have aggregation over different groups. So, if you are looking at a particular metric and an average of that metric across these different groups, this average might give a completely qualitatively different direction uh, than when you are actually looking at individual groups for that same metric. So we'll just look at an example now, and this example is actually a very famous one. The numbers are different here. The original numbers had a lot more segregation by department. So this is basically from a university where the university was actually sued for gender discrimination based on the data on admission rates by different departments and gender. So it was seen that on an average, men were getting a higher admission rate, so 36.7% and 30% admission rate for women. So naturally, there seems to be apparently a cause for concern here that whether or not gender discrimination was going on. But on closer inspection, it was found that at a departmental level, women were often actually far outperforming men when it came to admission rates. So for instance, if you look at Department A, women had a 90% admission rate as opposed to 60% admission rate for men. In Department B, we had a 25% admission rate and a very comparable admission rate for women, 20%. Men had 25%. So if I look at these data, then it doesn't seem like there's much of discrimination at all. In fact, women, for instance, have a much higher admission rate in Department A. But in Department B, it was quite comparable, not a major drop at all. So it's not a consistent discrimination across departments or throughout the university. But you look at the overall numbers, you see that the trend is kind of reversed, because you would expect that with an admission rate as high as 90% in one department, you would have a much higher overall admission rate for women, but that's not the case. It's actually lesser for women. Now, the reason why this has really happened is because the admission rate for both the genders were actually much lower in one of these, and women actually applied more in that particular department. So for instance, if you look at Department B, you see that for both men and women, the overall admission rate was actually much lower, and women applied more in that particular department compared to men, and even compared to them in Department A. And that is the reason why the overall average, for admission rate for women actually went down. So this is why averages can be misleading, and this is precisely what Simpson's paradox is all about. This is called Simpson's paradox, and we've seen an example now from social science. We'll just see how it can be applied in the context of performance marketing. So we're looking at an ad account data, and this is for a certain date range, and you'll see that we are essentially at the ad set level, and within one campaign we are at an ad set level, and at the ad set level you can see that there are 3 ads that we're running, and within this date range there's actually a positive change in the CPA. This is cost per result, right? So the cost per result, the CPA, has actually dropped for all the 3 active ad sets during this period. But when you look at the overall CPA at the campaign level, it has actually increased. Okay, the CPA has increased. So what's really going on? This is a classic example of Simpson's paradox that's going on. And the CPA has increased because of certain reasons. Let's actually understand why. The CPA has increased despite the fact that CPA has decreased at an ad set level. And now we look at one of the ad sets and we can start seeing the reason why. So this particular ad set, for instance, has a nearly 1,300%, more than 1,300% increase. It's a new ad set. You can understand, you can guess. And it just started running, and it has a massive increase compared to the previous period. Okay, in terms of the amount spent. Now let's actually look at the results. So the results have also increased. The results have actually increased even more, right? But the problem is that for the other 2 ad sets, the amount spent has actually decreased. Okay, and if you look at the results have not increased for them. Okay, so what's really happening is the overall number of purchases have, in fact, it dropped for this particular ad set, from 6 to 1. Okay, and for this it remains the same. So while there was a 1600% increase in the number of purchases, there was also a huge increase in the amount of money spent, and there was also no proportionate increase in the results from the other two ad sets. The overall combination of this resulted in a cost per result increase during that period for that particular campaign, even though at an ad set level, each of them had cost per results which were actually going down. Okay, so this is Simpson's paradox, a very, very good example. I actually found this out and I found it very interesting that this was a live example. Theoretically, I had known it and I've probably seen it before, but in recent times, I haven't seen one such example. So I just wanted to point it out to you guys, whether you are a business owner or you are a performance marketer. Now, from a media buying perspective, why is this important and how can you apply this knowledge? So you should always be considering looking at disaggregated data as well and not just aggregated data. Meaning, if you're looking at campaign level, don't just take the decision on the basis of changes there. So a drop in 38.6% at a campaign level may not necessarily be meaning that each of the assets are not doing well. So if this is, for instance, a CBO or an ABO campaign, whatever, they should actually come down at the ad set level, and actually see what is the thing that's going on there, what are the things. And especially if it's an ABO campaign, that you can sort of adjust budgets only in those ad sets which are not doing well. In this case, each of these actually had a decrease in the CPA, so you'll have to consider several factors here. We'll have to consider whether or not you want to spend so much in the one which is spending the highest, or you want to increase the spend for the others, and similar other decisions can be actually taken. On the other hand, if you are at an ad set level, then you should look at the ad level as well, and not just take decisions at the ad set level. So it's essentially about looking at granular data and not just get caught up with the aggregated data. So this is basically what Simpson's paradox is. It was a short video, but it has got utility in performance marketing, and I hope that you guys will keep this in mind, and it should definitely help you take better decisions. So that was all. That was all for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.